joining us right now in the studio is Alhaji Tanko Yakasai, OFR, who is a former presidential advisor. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you here again.
Thank you very much, yes.
Only over the weekend, we saw your group. Is that the Arewa Consultative Forum?
No.
Not an elders forum?
No, the Leaders and Stakeholders Assembly. We're not forum.
Okay.
Northern
Leaders.
Leaders, not elders. Northern Leaders and Stakeholders Assembly.
This is very different from the ACF.
It is.
It is also very different from the NEF.
It brought everybody together there.
So it's
those who are willing to join.
Those who are willing to join. So
That's
some
right.
of them are members of the ACF and some of them are members of the NEF as
Exactly.
well. Okay, but this is another body.
It's a completely new one.
Completely a new one.
Yes.
What precisely are you trying to achieve with this new body?
We are trying to achieve what those you mentioned have not yet achieved.
Which
Bring
is?
Northerners together, think of their problems, all this killing, hard farmers, conflict, and so on. Let us address them and devise a strategy whereby we will do away with them and live in peace. Because without peace, there will be no progress. This is our thinking. And it has nothing to do with the coming election. We are not a front for anybody. And in fact, we are aiming at far behind, after the elections. We are not out for the purposes of the election. But certainly we are Nigerians.
But certainly you are interested in the elections, aren't you?
We are one to watch. And in fact, we are thinking of developing an agenda that will be the basis upon which we will lend our support to any candidate who is prepared to change the narrative in Nigeria.
Yeah, some people found your comments rather interesting at that meeting you had with former military president Ibrahim Babangida.
Yes.
You did say that the North has been shortchanged. You have supported leaders in the past and that you have not gotten as much benefit as you ought to.
Well, shortchanged.
Did you say that?
Maybe is your language. What you said is that we have been supporting people to emerge as leaders. And yet, in the end, after getting to power, they forget about us.
Isn't that being shortchanged?
Well, I don't know. My English is different. I got my own in the street. You got your own in school. I didn't get my own in school.
Okay. Well, how would you describe that? If you have been supporting leaders and you have not been...
They have not been performing the way we expected them to perform. You can't leave people in ignorance, in poverty, in unemployment after getting to power. What agenda do you have for them? Otherwise, why do you take their vote? Why do you look for their vote if you are not going to change their lifestyle?
Alhaji Yakasai, I want to ask you this morning, when you look at the kind of the composition of the Northern Leaders and Stakeholders Assembly,
yes.
Particularly the group that visited the former military president, I see a lot of members who are sympathetic to the opposition People's Democratic Party.
Yes.
In your company was former Speaker Umar Galina Abba,
yes.
Dr. Babangida Aliyu,
yes.
and several other stakeholders.
Yes.
So is this not a partisan mission to achieve a particular goal ahead of the 2019 election?
I believe you are aware that I've never been a member of PDP. And this is the reason why they chose me as a non-partisan person.
Not sympathetic to PDP either?
I can be sympathetic to anybody. I was sympathetic to the re-election of Jonathan on a different grounds. I happen to be a member of NPN, where a synergy developed between the North and South-South. And that translated into Jonathan presidency. Edwin Clark is there. We put our heads together. At that time, we called ourselves Northern Union, led by late Dr. Olusegun Saraki. And they came from South-South People's Assembly, and we worked together. Eventually, we got Eradua and Jonathan together. Even though when Eradua died, and Jonathan succeeded him, and when Jonathan wanted to go for an election, I said, look, you completed the tenure for Jonathan, for Eradua. Why can't you allow the system of rotation to continue. Obasanjo did 2 terms. Why can't you allow the North to have 2 terms? Let's say the little period you spend to complete Eradua's term is part of the Northern share. Then allow Northerners to bring one so that we can have 2 terms for the North. The idea was to institutionalize this 2-term tenure for our future presidents.
You know, it's very interesting. You're clearly now in opposition to the current president, Muhammadu Buhari, his re-election bid. And I want to ask you, in view of that, if the idea being proposed in this last meeting with the former military president is that Nigeria needs to move toward a new generation of leadership, does that not indicate that the zoning arrangement of 8 years is going to be subverted by an additional 8 years of a new candidate from the North in 2019?
Well, I'm coming. You say now. I did not start my opposition to Buhari now. It was in this studio, before the election, that I said I was not supporting his candidature. And I was asked why. I said I don't think he was prepared for it. His party was not prepared for it. Today I'm justified. I didn't say anything since then. Each time I'm approached, I said no. I've said what I needed to say. So it's not now. It's something that has been in me because I'm convinced that we are not prepared to rule Nigeria. Now, after 3 years, nothing new happened. So it's not that we are now, or I am now in opposition. I've been there. I was so convinced that you are prepared to have a program. If somebody is going to rule a country, he should have a program, well thought out program, particularly a country like Nigeria with multifaceted problems. You should come up with a blueprint. How are you going to tackle the massive problem of unemployment all over the country? It's not just in the North.
But some observers, sir, would look at the group that, that some of the membership of your group and say that, look, there's a bit of a double standard here in the sense that you have Dr. Babangida Ali, you have the former minister of FCT, Bala Mohammed. You have some members who are currently battling corruption charges in court as we speak right now, but you're referring to, the impoverishment of the North. Is there not an irony there?
The main image maker of President Buhari today is Uzo Kalu. Is he not facing court charges? That is one. Number one. Number two, we said it right from the beginning that the door of our organization is open to every Northerner, regardless of his political opinion. So we have PDP, we have non-PDP members. I don't belong to PDP. I've never been a member of PDP. But I'm a Nigerian. I'm a Northerner. By the way, you are talking of younger generation. If you look carefully, you realize that most of the people in that delegation were over 70 or 60. I'm 93. So it's not for us. I mean, I'm not young. I cannot be a commissioner. I cannot be a minister. I cannot be president. I cannot be governor. I cannot be a local government chairman. I cannot be anything in government. But I'm there. Just I have children, I have grandchildren, and I want to secure their future.
What's the thought of your group on that idea that I raised earlier about if you bring another candidate, whether from a younger generation or not, from the North, that it would essentially mean 12 years for the North, uninterrupted?
I said right from the beginning that we are not having this election in our mind. This idea came by the will of God. It came up just at the time when the country is facing election. But we didn't have this election into our program. But be that as it may, there is election coming. So we can't ignore that fact. It's a fact of life. So when it comes, we'll open our eyes. But what we observe is that throughout since 1999 to date, you see the Northerners who are lending their support to people emerging as president, whether they are Northerners or non-Northerners, after getting to power, they ignore them. So we are saying the narrative should change this time around. Anybody who is coming to look for vote from the North, he should tell us how he is going to infect positively on our life, on our population.